Thank you for being here today. This is kind of a second recording of our River Management Roundtable for July of 2025. My name is Risa Shimoda. I'm the Executive Director of the River Management Society, and I'm thrilled to be here with a couple of folks who have great stories to tell. And I think you'll be able to learn if you are trying to expand the audience of your paddling community, your river management community, and the community at large, anything related to being in or around a river. Melanie Borger is here and Junko Taniguchi, and we are just going to get going here. So if you've not been to a River Management Roundtable before, we host these on second Tuesdays of each month. You can see the types of folks who are invited. Anyone's invited, but particularly the folks who are those you see in the list. There's no charge, and you're always invited and welcome. And we have video reviews of our sessions on the River Management Society's River Training Center channel. And as we ask always to just we'll have opportunity to ask questions. We usually do, and just ask you to acknowledge that these folks are speaking from their perspective, and it's really important to kind of honor what they're saying, and if there are questions, honoring those who are asking the questions. So without further ado, first we'll hear from Melanie Borger, Chief Athletic Officer from the Riversport Foundation, Oklahoma City. And when Melanie's done, she'll pass it off to Junko Taniguchi, who's the program manager of Trak Outdoors, and I'll have them, explain about their organization as well as what they do. So you are up, Melanie. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Risa, for having me. When people think of waterways and rivers, they don't frequently think of Oklahoma, but we do have a lot of waterways, and I have the pleasure of working at the Riversport Foundation, which is an urban water sports center. And we were formed about 20 years ago. And what is, I think, maybe a little bit unique about our organization is that we are urban. You can see in this picture, you can see the Oklahoma City skyline in the background. And we sit on both the natural water, the Oklahoma River, which you can see to the left. And we also have a Class 4 whitewater center, which you can see in the middle of the screen. I began this work about 30 years ago when I joined my college rowing team. And as I became a coach, it really became obvious to me that the sport, that many more people could benefit from participating in the sport of rowing, and the sport itself could benefit from more diverse people, participating. It's a very white sport. And I really tried to change my goals in the sport, not just coaching with the goal of winning, but really trying to make the sport more accessible to more people. And the opportunity to really grow that presented itself in 2019. And Risa, we can move to the next slide, when the Outdoor Foundation started the Thrive Outside initiative. They selected 4 cities across the country to start the Thrive Outside initiative, and we were one of them. The 4 cities were San Diego, Atlanta, Grand Rapids, and Oklahoma City, of course. And in each of those cities, they selected a backbone organization to build a network of local organizations who wanted to engage youth in outdoor recreation and nature experiences. So in 2019, the Riversport Foundation started Thrive Outside Oklahoma City. And since then, we have about 40 partner organizations in our local network. And then nationally, the Thrive Outside network has also grown to 13 communities. Risa, and Junko, you're based in Washington, D.C. There is a Thrive Outside network in Washington, D.C., and Chris is on this call. There is a network in St. Louis. But we can go ahead and move to the next slide because I'm really going to just focus on the network in Oklahoma City. And I just want to point out that the network is what's really important in how we've been able to make water sports in Oklahoma City more accessible to everyone in our community. As a, singular coach working for this nonprofit, I really struggled in recruiting or engaging with people from all over our city. To be blunt, like I'd go to these schools, and it was really hard to connect with young kids of color. I just looked like a white middle-aged lady, which I didn't look like one. I am one, right? And so rowing just didn't seem like something that they were interested in doing. But the Thrive Outside network model was the model that really clicked, because instead of me as an individual coach going to these schools or these community centers, instead we were partnering with the school as a whole and bringing in whether it be a teacher or an administrator, or partnering with organizations like after school programs like the Boys and Girls Club or the YMCA, to connect with those communities. And the benefit of the network is the youth in those communities and the youth and the families that are part of those organizations and schools already have built up a lot of trust with those organizations. So when the community leader, when the teacher says, hey, we're going to go down to Riversport and we're going to go kayaking, or we're going to go dragon boating, the kids are excited to come. So this graphic here on your slide is a representation of some of the communities in our network, or some of the organizations in our network, and it's overlaid against many of the natural resources that we do have in Oklahoma City. And since we started with Thrive Outside Oklahoma City in 2019, we have served almost 12,000 youth by providing over 260,000 hours of outdoor recreation. And many of I think when the Outdoor Foundation first envisioned Thrive Outside, they envisioned that we would have a network of organizations already doing outdoor work. We didn't have a ton of those organizations in Oklahoma City. So the majority of our partner organizations are schools, after-school programs, healthcare agencies, shelters, teen and youth shelters. And so I was just going to highlight a couple of them so you can kind of get a picture of what our work looks like. For example, the Oklahoma City Indian Clinic has been a partner of ours, even prior to our beginning of Thrive Outside. We host a summer camp for their patients. And we also host a mother-daughter kayaking class. And I think that's really interesting to point out, because in our Indigenous community, there's been a long history of separating children from their families with the residential schools. And so having intergenerational programming is something that many people in our tribal population feel more comfortable with. Another one of our partner organizations is Remerge. Remerge is a justice diversion program for moms and pregnant women who've had non-violent arrests. And they have to go through a year-long program with counseling, job training, and so on and so forth, in lieu of going through the justice system. And this is a very intensive program that requires a lot of dedication and focus from the clients. So we provide free summer camp for their children. And I bring those both up because they have one thing in common is we've had a young person who's completed our Oklahoma City Indian Clinic summer camps and another person who's completed our Remerge summer camps. And both of those young women have started working for us. One as a camp counselor and one as a kayak instructor. And I really think that is the ultimate goal, or reinforcing that we've accomplished what we set out to do, that these kids had such a transformational experience during these programs that when they were old enough, they wanted to share that with other young people. We can go ahead and go to the next slide, I think, Risa.
And you want to talk about your numbers?
Oh,
Here.
yeah. So when we started Thrive Outside in 2019, since then, in the last 6 years, we've served almost 12,000 youth by providing 260,000 hours of outdoor recreation. Yeah, that's just a data point we track throughout the years. So we will probably be up towards about 13,000 and almost 300,000 hours by the end of 2025. I think when many people think of Oklahoma, as I said earlier, they don't necessarily think of water sports and recreating on the water. And I think many Oklahomans themselves don't think of themselves as, water sports people. So you have to meet people where they are. Otherwise, you're just going to be getting the same people day in and day out. And there's a couple different ways I approach that. One is we're very fortunate in Oklahoma that we have a variety of different watercraft. And in our venue, we have both a natural and a manufactured outdoor waterway. So many people, we will start off in the Whitewater Center, but the pumps will be off. So it's just like a huge outdoor pool where we do things like build cardboard canoes and we go we play kayak football. Because one thing in Oklahoma, people may not know really what rowing or kayaking is, or may have never been in a boat, but all Oklahomans know what football is. And it's really fantastic to get both kids and adults in a kayak playing football, and they get so focused on, passing and catching the ball that they don't even realize that they're developing really, really great paddling skills at the same time. And I should mention that I totally borrowed this idea from Team River Runner, who has an extensive kayak football program with their veterans program. And then the other thing is we really normalize wearing life jackets. Not everyone can go out and buy a $120 low profile inflatable life jacket, and nor can we afford to provide those for everybody who comes out. So we normalize the dorky looking life jackets, and And yeah, so and then you see just a variety of watercraft on here, right? We've got a tube, we got a sit on top kayak, we have a rowing shell, and we have a cardboard canoe. For many people in our Thrive Outside programs, the first time they ever get on a boat is when they come to river sport. And we want to make that seem as easy and safe and as fun as possible. Um, so yeah, I think that's it. And I look forward to hearing what Jinko has to say about the work you guys are doing in Washington, D.C.
Great, thanks, Melanie. Okay, Junko. You are
Thanks, Melanie. Really love the idea of kayak football, because that's a meeting people where they are is like definitely a big part of what we do as well. But yeah, my name's Junko. I am the programs manager with Trak Outdoors. We are a DC-based nonprofit providing outdoor programming for communities of color in DC. Well, the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. But we're based in DC, and a lot of the communities that we really want to serve are communities of color in DC in general, but also very specifically communities of Wards 7 and 8 in DC, which comprise of pretty much the southeast region of DC. You can kind of see on the map there. There's two rivers in DC that come down and meet, and we have the Potomac on the left as well as the Anacostia on the right. And most of Southeast DC is right along the Anacostia River. So Soul does a whole bunch of different programs ranging from climbing, hiking, camping, backpacking, and we've always done flat water kayaking, but not up until a couple years ago did we start getting into whitewater kayaking. But a couple of these pictures show some of the other programs that we do. And so, yeah, our main thing is really trying to remove a lot of the barriers that people face when accessing the outdoors, whether that's the cost of gear or knowledge, where to go, what to do, how to be safe. But then also, I think one big barrier that Soul Trek addresses and tries to provide is the lack of community around people of color in the outdoors. So we're really just trying to build community investment in outdoor activities, and whether that's through families or through young adults. We have our college students. It's kind of like an all-encompassing sort of way of bringing everybody into different outdoor activities. So yeah, we work mostly in the DMV area. And yeah, a couple years ago, I learned about the really vibrant whitewater scene here in the DMV, right on the Potomac River, which is our home river, through the Canoe Cruisers Association, which is a sort of a paddling group here in DC that Risa and a couple other friends are a part of. And so they described to me sort of this vibrant whitewater scene and how they have really wanted to do more outreach to communities of color in DC, really trying to tap into this kind of this large group of people in DC who don't recreate on the river, uh, through whitewater. Maybe they will in other ways, but really through whitewater, we want to see more representation and see more local DC kids and families out on the water. Something I didn't mention earlier, but the Anacostia River, which is, runs right through Southeast DC, used to be the dumping ground for DC. It was very, very polluted. But in the last probably 30 years, 30, 40 years, they've really cleaned it up a lot. Maybe even less than that. I think the early 2000s is when one of the plants along the river, the power plants, closed down. So the river itself has sort of acted as a barrier for communities in Southeast to access other parts of DC, whether that's other green spaces like Rock Creek Park, or even the just sort of the museums and sort of what you naturally think of as DC. And so residents of Southeast and communities of color in general, like really think of the river as a barrier. They don't think of it as something that they can recreate on or something that is a resource to them. So a lot of what we do is to try to do a lot of education around that river, and help people to rethink their relationship with the outdoors, but also, what's right in our front yards. So we do some river education, restoration projects, as well as fun recreation activities like kayaking. But yeah, going back to our whitewater program, which is sort of what I'm here to talk about today, you could go to the next slide. So this is a picture of our second whitewater kayaking cohort. Trak has partnered with the Kaleva River School and the Canoe Cruisers Association to put on this program once a year. We have a 4-week class in July, so it'll be starting on this Saturday. And it's really meant to be like an opening for people to get into whitewater. So whether they've flat water kayak before, maybe they've done whitewater practice before, it's really just like a very introductory level introduction to whitewater kayaking. And as I was saying before, a lot of what we do is trying to build community around it, build investment. So we have found that this cohort model really works well for us. We've modeled this after actually our climbing program, which is also a 6-week progression class, but you stay with the same 10 to 12 cohort mates for the whole time. And so you build relationships with your friends and peers in this class, and you also build skills together, with the hopes that, after you graduate the class, you have 10 other people that you can go climbing with or go kayaking with. So it really helps to sort of build this camaraderie and community around this sport. And with the addition of the CCA volunteers, we have Gary on the right, we have Risa and Cotton up in there, connecting with volunteers who are very experienced paddlers, sort of creates this like broader community of like, oh, it's not just people who are new to this. There are a lot of people who do this already that I can connect with, use as a resource, as a mentor perhaps. And so that's been really valuable to the cohort as well. So this picture shows the last year's cohort. This year we're starting our 3rd year. So slowly we're started building interest, and there's a lot of interest now in taking the class, but definitely every year we add about 10 to 12 paddlers to our little whitewater kayaking community. So a little bit more about this 3-part partnership that has really worked well for us. So the Kaleva River School provides instruction, and CCA provides volunteer help. After people take the class, there are opportunities to paddle with very experienced paddlers. And then us as Trak, I see us sort of as a connector, and sort of a facilitator. A lot of Trak's programs, again, we're really trying to emphasize like, how does your identity in the outdoors influence the way that you show up? And how do we make this space more inclusive and more welcoming to people who don't already feel like the outdoors is a space for them? And so we facilitate all of our programs. We start with an opening Trak circle, and we sort of bring that into the space. And we're talking about, what people's relationship with the outdoors is or was. And towards the end, we can also talk about, how that might have changed, what they can do with that, who they can share that with. So that is a big part of what we do. And I think Melanie mentioned as well, like building trust is a big part of bringing people into the outdoors. And so I think people trust Trak to lead them into something new that they might not have tried before. And so we are really grateful that we've sort of had the opportunities to build that trust within our communities, and be able to introduce people to new and sometimes terrifying sports like whitewater kayaking. So, and I think the other thing I wanted to highlight with this three-part partnership is that you know, it takes a lot of resources to get people out on the water. You know, whether that's Kaleva providing the boats and the gear and the helmets. They also run an extra session throughout the week for practice. And so anybody in their classes can go out and practice an extra day. So they provide all the gear for that night as well. And financially, like they are able to provide like a discounted rate for Trak so that we can pass on that discounted rate. We also contribute to covering the cost of the class for our participants through grants and through private donations. And then CCA, our volunteers are amazing and volunteer to carpool people. Transportation is a big barrier in the city. A lot of people just don't have cars, or don't have cars that they can transport a kayak in. And so a big barrier that Trak works on is trying to just connect people to these opportunities. And so CCA provides carpools from metro stations that are close by, very easily accessible from the city, but it's still about a 30-40 minute drive from those metro stations to the river. And so that has been a huge investment in making sure that people can actually get to the class in the first place. Yeah, you can go to the next slide. So here's a couple pictures of our class. Everybody has pretty big smiles on. It's also just a great way to spend July in DC, which is notoriously swampy. And so yeah, on the right we have Biga and Sherry. Sherry took the class last year, came back for, we also do pool sessions. So the next slide will be our pool sessions, but Sherry's come back for our pool sessions. And then this year brought her mom to an event, a paddling event, and is also going on to take sort of the next class in Kaleva's curriculum. So Sherry's awesome. She loves trying new things, and she's been bringing her family members and friends out to also paddle. And so that's sort of what we want to see, is we want to see people get excited, get quote unquote bitten by the bug, and coming out excited to share that with friends and family as well. Next slide. And then here are our pool sessions. So Trak does programming all throughout the year. And so we were really excited to add a pool session during the winter months when things sort of slow down for us in the outdoors. But they don't slow down for these paddlers because they're in the pool every week. Every week we're able to bring around 5 either new or alum paddlers, just to like kind of see what it's like to be in a boat, see what it's like to wear a skirt, to do some basic paddle strokes in a very sort of comfortable environment, or in an environment that's a little more familiar than just going out to the Potomac River. So these pool sessions put on by CCA and are also, you know, volunteer led. Like we have some great volunteer instructors as well, who can provide some very basic instruction for getting in a boat for the first time, or in this case, like Sherry was coming back to being in a boat after taking, you know, a few months off for the colder months. But yeah, we found that it's a great stepping stone for people to get to the level where they're ready to go on the river. Many people just don't know what whitewater kayaking is in general. So being able to, you know, get into a boat, put the skirt on, see how spinny the boats can be, and how that's different from just sort of what flat water sea kayaking going straight, has been really helpful for people to sort of see like, oh, like this is different. Like maybe I can see myself doing this. And actually the first year, my director, Tyree, who is a pretty experienced paddler, you know, who was able to roll, and we got it on an Instagram reel or a video and posted it, and got so much engagement and so much excitement of people being like, that looks really cool. I want to do that. How do I do that? And so we were able to fill our pool sessions and garner a lot of interest for the whitewater class in July. So big part of that is just sort of visually, like the representation of seeing somebody doing it, seeing people that look like them, look like us doing it, is very important for people to actually then take the leap. It's still a bit of a leap to sign up and register for the class, but it does help sort of get people there. You can go to the next slide. Or is that it? Well, the couple things that I also wanted to talk about was, there's a huge potential, I think, for tapping adjacent communities. There are many people who live in DC who don't even think of the river as somewhere where they can go uh, to learn something new or to get in a kayak, to challenge themselves, to learn so much about themselves, like obviously that we know, the outdoors can do for us. And so a lot of, what we're trying to do is provide that opportunity for people. And we find that we don't even have to look for the people who are really interested. Like we kind of just look for people in general. And I think Melanie was also mentioning this, like just going to groups that have not been on the river before. The reason why we don't see interest is because they've not done that before. And so what I've found through this work is that, sort of, if you build it, they will come. If you provide the opportunity and do the outreach, you'll gain the interest. You'll sort of like manufacture that interest within people because it's naturally there. And so, my job as a programs manager and Soul Trak's role is to really connect people to that, to show people that this is an option for you, that this is something that you can do, this is attainable, and provide sort of the smoothest pathway to get there. What if people start to run into barriers such as transportation or the gear, it kind of discourages you from actually trying something new. And so what we're trying to do is sort of remove those barriers so that people can really follow that interest and yeah, learn something new, get into something new, and really tap into the potential that we have there.
Well, thank you so much. Well, thank you both. I'm going to stop sharing here. One thing that you mentioned, Junko, that Melanie has mentioned in other conversations is kind of the proof or some measure of success is having people come back. And, for Soul Trak, it's having people volunteer or take the class again or take another class. And in that group photo where a bunch of people standing next to the boats upright, some of those people from last year are going to be volunteers this year. A couple of those folks signed up to do the class again this year. So that's like everything you'd want is, for me, the ultimate would be someone who wants to, be an officer in the CCA. But we'll wait. We'll be we'll be patient. But hopefully they'll, folks will become part of the community and take some ownership on and want to, extend themselves. And Melanie, you mentioned the folks who were competing or instructing, and that's similar, in your world. And think what I hadn't thought about before today, I think Melanie, when we were talking about some of your history, where Thrive Outside was first thinking about just bringing together outdoor groups, and then there weren't any. So you had to create your community. And, by being open to everyone, from mothers and daughters in schools. And I think that's, and with the CCA, we couldn't reach the people that we wanted to. We couldn't. It was impossible. We just didn't know them. But by connecting with Soul Trak, it opened up just a huge opportunity. Community suddenly became, completely different. So whatever it takes to reinvent, it will be different for each group that wants to become more diverse or wants to expand their community definition or their universe of potential participants. It's not rocket science, but it does take a little bit of not being afraid to, reinvent that. So thank you so much. I'm going to end it here. But thanks again. Thanks for all those who have attended or are going to be watching this in our recordings.